This is Long Way to the Top, and I'm your host, Shane Bryan. In the words of the immortal AC/DC, it is harder than it looks. These interviews will give you a glimpse into the lives of the artists that we've sung along with, danced and rocked out to. Some go deep into their past and others celebrate their recent releases. But all of them show that regardless of who you are, it's always a long way to the top. Labelled a punk band when they were formed in 1974, the Stranglers were experimental right from the start, with a bit of art rock, new wave and goth for good measure. 23 UK top 40 singles, 19 UK top 40 albums, over nearly 5 decades of music. The Stranglers are one of the longest surviving bands to come out of the punk scene in the UK, having just released their latest album, Dark Matters. And at the time of this recording, they were embarking on an Australian capital city tour. I'm honoured to have the founding bass player, JJ Burnel, join me on Long Way to the Top. JJ Burnel, welcome.
Very much. And first of all, may I apologise that we're not visiting Tasmania.
It would just be a dream for you guys to be performing down here. And you performed here a few years back, I believe.
Yeah, we had an Australian and New Zealand tour with Blondie, and it was good fun.
Yeah. And now you were telling me before we started this that actually was, I think maybe keyboardist got Baz got a tattoo.
Baz Warren, our guitarist. I walked into town with him, and he had a tattoo done somewhere downtown.
What was the tattoo, can I ask?
I think it was some kind of Australian art thing, Aboriginal art,
right.
on his arm.
Yeah, nice. Now, look, I'd love to just have a bit of a chat about your history, the history of the Stranglers. For a punk band, I've got to say, there's a lot of sophistication about your music, and I believe that rock.
Hold on, yeah. May I interrupt you?
Yes.
There's an implication that punk isn't sophisticated or never produced anything sophisticated. So that's one assumption which I can discuss with you.
No, you're right. No, you are right. Yes. Well, what was it about punk that because it was such a I guess, in-your-face sort of style, wasn't it?
Well, it was occasionally. It depended which bunch of people, of punks, you were talking about or listening to.
Yeah.
But it was overall, socially, it was quite a big thing,
Yeah.
It was an expression, also of frustration at the time, because UK was not in a good place. Mm. There were strikes all the time, a bit like what's starting to happen now in the UK. But it was there was unemployment. The UK hadn't found its role in the world after the war. It was indebted. It was a dirty place. It was not happy with itself, And so there was a brain drain. People were leaving. Loads went to Australia, Canada, New Zealand, abroad. And the tax regime was such that if you had any money, you were taxed 93% of what you earned. Mm. So, of course, the talent left and the country was just languishing. And then Thatcher came to power and things changed and she sort of fought the unions and pride slowly crept back into the UK. Mm. So it wasn't a nice place. So there was a lot of frustration around and people wanted to be shocking and just stick their fingers and their finger up at everyone. And so from there came a sort of an attempt to wipe the slate clean and get rid of all the prog rockers and stuff. But you know what happens when you throw what happened was they threw the baby out with the bathwater. So it was year zero, and the problem with the year zero is it creates a new orthodoxy, and then some things become heretic, or sacrilegious and unacceptable, which is silly, really.
Do you feel like that whenever a country or whenever a group goes through some sort of upheaval like that, that music is really, I guess, the telltale sign. And so in the UK, it was music that was really propelling things forward.
It was, well, I think you're almost right there, but I don't think it's just music, Shane. I think it's all forms of expression. When there's a situation like that, that all forms of expression explode. There's an explosion of it. I mean, look at the fashion which came from that period as well, and the haircuts and the attitude and the DIY attitude as well. So it's not only just music and cinema as well. All kinds of forms of expression.
And you are right. I mean, you take your punk songs, talking about sophistication in music. You take the punk songs. A lot of them have been reworked into incredible orchestral pieces and incredible pieces of music that you go, well, there must have been behind all the yelling and the front. There was actually a lot of real talent in it.
Well, yeah. If you see it in those economic terms and scratch the surface, you'll find a lot more.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
a lot more underneath.
Yeah. Rock wasn't your first choice of music originally?
I wasn't aware of it at the time. I was kind of, my parents loved South American music and classical music.
Yeah.
And so I was carted along as a very young kid because we lived in Notting Hill at the time, across the park to the Royal Albert Hall. And I was subjected to, Ukrainian state dances, the Georgian state dances, or Los Paraguayos, or South American stuff, and classical concerts. And my dad really loved, he'd been a French chef on the South American line, the French line, which went from, I think it's called the French line, actually, went from Le Havre in France to South America. So he'd fallen in love with tango music in the 1930s. So all he wanted me to do was pick up a guitar and learn Spanish guitar and classical. As a result, I learned classical, and that was my first instrument.
Yeah. So, you guys were supporting, when you first came out, you started supporting bands like Patti Smith and the Ramones, which really set the scene for you in the punk world.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these... we had a lot of trouble from day one. People just didn't like what we were doing. It didn't fit in with anything at the time. And so from early 76, lots of future bands were coming to check us out. The Clash, Sex Pistols, Chrissie Hynde, Pretenders. They were all coming to see us in the pubs because that was our education. Thank God there were pubs, Years later, well, not too much later, having played in a pub was used as a pejorative term, but I challenge anyone to tell me what great bands haven't started in bars or played in pubs. It's a badge of honor as far as I can see to have started in the pubs.
Even bands like In Excess, like that became massive stadium bands. They all started in the pubs.
Well, I was looking at an old newspaper clipping from 1976, before any of us had recording contracts, and it had one night was in a pub, the Stranglers. Next night, Dire Straits.
Wow.
Next night, Shaking Stevens. And it was like pretty eclectic, but they were all playing in the pubs.
I believe Bono came and saw you in a pub. Bono? U2 came and saw you in a pub, yeah?
No, they came and saw us they supported us in Dublin.
Right.
They might come to see us in a pub before that, but all these bands came to see us.
Yeah. There's a story that I read that you guys got into a fight with the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, and the Clash. What was it, like a big rumble?
It wasn't a big rumble. It was handbags at 10 feet. It was on one side of the court. Yeah, I punched Paul of the Clash because he spat at my feet and he was having a pint with Steve and Paul from the Sex Pistols. So all our pints were all over the place. Then suddenly we were grabbed hold by these giant bouncers, and we were facing each other in a courtyard. And it was, on one side, it was the Clash, the Pistols, the Pretenders, a lot of press, and the Ramones. And then on the other side of the courtyard was me, and the Stranglers, and a few buddies. And it was kind of, from then on, opinion was polarized against the Stranglers.
But, like you did a few things over the years that sort of helped, I guess, continue to polarize the opinion, like got escorted out of Sweden by police with machine guns. You gaff taped a music journalist to the Eiffel Tower.
First floor of the Eiffel Tower.
First floor of the Eiffel Tower, upside down, 120 meters above the ground.
But, I think in every democracy you have to have the right to reply.
But that wasn't the last time either. I think you taped a journalist in Australia to the stage.
But I think it was because she drunk all Jet's rider in the dressing room before we got there. So
well, that's good reason
why we did that. But
that's good reason. Now, just, you've had some amazing albums. Your first two albums in particular really sort of set the scene for you guys. And, you had singles coming out of it like No More Heroes and Peaches that are still to this day, such classic tracks. What happened at the start of the 80s? Because your music kind of evolved. You introduced sort of keyboards, vocoders, looping bass drums, and then, of course, out of that came Golden Brown.
Perversely, you struggle, don't you? And then suddenly you get that chance, and with that chance, you might have a bit of success. And when you have that success, it's very seductive. So what happens is you get pressure from all sides to repeat that success. And we didn't want that. So we did the opposite. We always wanted to see how far we could go with whatever limited or unlimited talent that we had. But also it coincided with the technological revolution, from analog to digital.
Yes.
So we embraced it. There were all these there were keyboards, synthesizers, which could make sounds that you'd never heard before. So that was, and then you had sequencers and stuff. So we really embraced the technology, and really didn't want to. And a lot of the punk bands dismissed us because we were using synthesizers. And it was just it became. And since we were no longer supported by our peer group, we could go off in any tangent and see what happens. So sometimes it worked, and other times we fell flat on our faces. But at least we tried, and experimented. And now one of the album, which was the most experimental for us at the time, came out in 1980.
Yes,
and it was called "The Gospel According to the Men in Black."
Yes.
And on it, we had to create methods of recording things which hadn't been invented yet, experimenting in the studio, and that was really exciting and real fun. But we had no idea of what it would lead to. In that case, in that particular case, it led to a complete and utter failure and bankruptcy. Yeah. But but that was still, that's part of it. Life's too short to play safe.
Yeah, and not every album is going to be a commercial sort of album, as much as the record labels would like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to start seeking that commercial success that you might, or to replicate what you might have had, is dangerous. I think it's creatively suffocating. And I think it's the tail wagging the dog, and surely the dog should wag the tail.
Yes, yeah. Golden Brown gave you, a real sort of worldwide mark. Sort of really.
Well, that was a worldwide success, despite the record company not wanting to release it.
Yeah. Why didn't they want to release that song?
Said you can't dance to it. It's got a harpsichord in it, It's not punky. No one's going to like it because it's got an odd signature tune.
It's a waltz, right?
Well, it is. Some of it, 3 bars of it are waltz time, and then there's 1 bar of 4. So technically, it makes it 13/4.
Right.
But they didn't want to release it.
Well, look, what do they know? They're just a record label.
Exactly.
Now, look, we can't have a chat without talking, obviously, about the passing of Jet Black at the end of last year, and that happened 2 years after Dave Greenfield left as well.
Jet's passing wasn't totally unexpected.
Yeah.
Over the course of the Stranglers' career, we've had 8 different drummers at times when Jet's been poorly. Well, he's been poorly on and off since I first met him in 1974.
Yeah.
So he's always had health problems. But having said that, we felt he was as strong as an ox, but he had serious internal, he had problems with his lungs.
Yes.
So that wasn't entirely unexpected. And Jet hasn't played really with us for about 10 years.
Yeah, I was going to say about 2015, roughly. Yeah,
well, that was the last time he tried to play with us. But he's still been a presence in the band. He was hugely influential in his opinions, and we really respected his opinions because he was 9 times out of 10 right.
Yeah.
But he found us our drummer Jim now, and he mentored him, and he said, and he looked at lots of people, said he's the one.
Yeah.
So Dave was much more unexpected. I only spoke to him 3 days before he passed away. I mean, by then he was in hospital and contracted COVID in hospital, as many people did, I believe.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the end of the Stranglers as we know it, because he's had a distinctive playing style and a sound. Unbeknown to me, someone contacted me and said, I think you should look at this tribute to Dave on YouTube. And there was a guy paying a tribute to Dave who I had actually worked in the studio 20 years ago.
Right.
Toby Hanson. And he'd been studying, he was a disciple basically. He'd been studying Dave for 35 years, every single note. And he's as geeky as Dave was.
Right.
So we tried him out, and it was as if you shut your eyes, it was Dave.
Right.
So we toured with him to see how he would be accepted by the UK fans.
Yeah. And
they embraced him wholeheartedly. So that's the lineup now. Jim, Toby, Baz, who's been with us for 23 years, and myself.
Yeah, and you're all heading out to Australia. I've got the dates here. I should mention the dates. So you're heading out in April. You're heading to Adelaide. So April 18th, you're heading to Adelaide, then doing Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, and Newcastle. So, and like all the dates are actually available at thestranglers.co.uk if you want to head over there and grab a ticket and just catch a flight. So what version of the Stranglers can we expect in Australia? Are you playing more new music, playing some of your classics? I mean, you can't not.
I really hate it when an artist performs and they're only promoting their latest thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of, because I don't pay my money to go and see an artist perform promoting their next album or next record.
Yeah.
I go to see them because I'm slightly familiar with some of their stuff, and I want to be surprised by new stuff, of course. With the Stranglers, it's and I'm really not in denial of old stuff. I'm very proud of stuff from the past. When I've been pissed off with playing old stuff, I've stopped playing it for 10 years. We stopped playing Peaches for 10 years because I just couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
Because the last thing people want to see is the Stranglers going through the motions, or any band going through motions. It's like, you don't want to see a cabaret band or karaoke band.
No.
So you've got to feel it, and the audiences will sense it. They will pick up on it. So I won't. So it's a good balance between old, more recent, and a bit of new.
Yeah. Yeah. I did an interview with, I don't know whether you're familiar with the Australian band The Church.
Yeah. They've been going for a long time.
Yeah. So I did an interview with Steve Kilbey, and I actually asked him about Unguarded Moment, which was, in my mind, a classic song. And he said, I hate that song. If it was one of my children, I would have got it adopted out. Just like, wow. I mean, like, is there ever something like that happens with you or with any artist that you just go, I just can't stand that song anymore?
Well, yeah, as I said, that's happened on a few occasions. And then maybe with a bit of luck, years later, you rediscover that piece and you renew your relationship with that piece of music. But what's the point of playing something just for the sake of it? I mean, when we've dropped Golden Brown, okay, a few people complained, but I was happy that we could do that. Had the strength to do that. But, we've got enough material to drop some. And
as long as you don't drop No More Heroes, please.
What I love about playing No More Heroes is it's just fucking great fun to play. But also, you feed off the reaction of the audience.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
I think that stays.
Well, JJ, thank you for being so generous with your time, and looking forward to maybe seeing you in Tasmania one day. In the near future.
I would love to. Yeah. I won't gate crash. Invite us, and we'll be there.
We will. JJ Burnel, The Stranglers, thanks for joining us.
That's you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Long Way to the Top. Hit plus or follow to subscribe to the podcast, and head over to Facebook at The Long Way to the Top podcast and give us a like. Keep on rocking, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Long Way to the Top.